things, and so I got here a little bit late. I feel very honored when we received the invitation to have Lemoyne co-sponsor this activity and to continue along these lines. And we were very, very fortunate in December to get a donation at Lemoyne of $1 million to endow a new Center for Catholic Studies and Theological Reflection. That will be the Sansone Center. And so I think we'll have a home for our Zagri project, or Lemoyne Zagri project, of the contemporary Catholic trends. And one of the roles of the center will really be to encourage the connectivity among all the different people that are looking at these questions, because what was particularly impressive about this morning is that people are coming with very, very similar conclusions, and yet they're nuanced and in different ways, indicating the richness of the reality. And so if we can be a forum while that's looked at more thoroughly, we feel very, very privileged to be invited to come and participate. So thank you very much for letting us do it.
This afternoon's second panel is devoted to what we might call the real things, models of actual young adult ministry. Our two speakers have a wealth of impressive experience in this important field. We will hear first from Catherine DeVries, who is Associate Director of Young Adult Ministry for the Archdiocese of Chicago and co-author with John Cusack of the Basic Guide to Young Adult Ministry. She will be followed by Sister Diane Guy, who is Director of Campus and Young Adult Ministry for the Diocese of Richmond.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Before we do this, time is slipping away so quickly, we don't have a whole lot of time in which to do this. Could we see, please, how many people in the room are working with young adults? You have some point of contact with people in their 20s and 30s right now. Okay, thank you. And how many people are working in campus ministry, university, college level? Okay, how many people do we have representing parishes? All right, how many people are doing some sort of an area-wide outreach to young adults? How many people are here for vocation work with your particular order? Okay, how many people are national directors of young adult ministry associations? Michelle Miller is with us today. Thanks, Michelle. Any particular group that we left out? We're good. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. My name is Kate DeVries. I work with Father John Cusack in the Young Adult Ministry Office for the Archdiocese of Chicago. I come to you as someone who has done young adult ministry professionally, both at the parish level and at the diocesan level. I've had a wonderful, wonderful experience in campus ministry when I was at Northern Illinois University. Came back to my home parish on fire with the Spirit, looking to make some great, great things happen, and church was kind of flat. Anybody ever experienced that? All right, we know what that's like. I asked Father, I would love to do some great things. I saw things at Northern that I could really, really get in touch with. Is there a way that I can start something for people? Number one, is there a group here for young adults? Oh, no, not really. Is there a way that I can do something for my peers, for and with my peers? I'll gather a group of people. I've got some leadership skills. We could make some great things happen. Well, I don't know. Oh, no, it's good. God is at work in my life each and every moment, and I can make some great things happen. And he said, well, Kate, to be honest, there aren't a lot of young adults in the area. And there aren't a lot of young adults that have the same questions and concerns that you have. And I just don't think it would work here. So, I'm so sorry. From that point on, once a month I went back to my Newman Center so that I would get my church fixed. Because once you've experienced great church, it's hard to go back to kind of the flatland. Once a month I did that for a year and a half, and then I marched right back in to see the same priest, and I said, Father, please, I can make some great stuff happen. I had my master's in special ed. I was making things happen in my classroom and professionally. I was on all these organizations. Please let me start something. He said, well, because you're so insistent, there is an office of young adult ministry for the diocese. Why don't you talk to Father John Cusack and see if maybe something could happen. So I made the phone calls around town. Father Cusack was delighted that I was interested in gathering with my peers. He said, would you consider making something happen at your own parish. I'm in the southwest suburbs of Chicago. And I said, Father, I have been trying for a year and a half. I am incredibly active in the parish with the teens and with the religious education and with the music department, but they won't let me do anything in young adult ministry. And he said, why don't you tell Father that I'd like to come out and we'll have a conversation. Once we did that, I said, don't expect much, John, because he's already told me no a couple of times. But he said, just tell him I'm available. I'd like to come out. We'll have a chat. Here are the days that I'm available. And I said, okay, I'll give it a try, knowing full well that nothing was going to come of this. I called the rectory back. Father Cusick from Young Adult Ministry wants to just come out and have a conversation. Well, I almost dropped the phone. He said this could be so exciting. There are so many young adults in the area. Incredible things. Oh my gosh, what changed? I could not get a handle on what was going on. So Father Cusick came out, he gave me some strategies, all of which are written in the Basic Guide to Young Adult Ministry, my little commercial. Some pastoral, practical strategies of things that would work. Every single thing he suggested works. The man is a visionary, and I've loved working with him for the past 16 and a half years. He asked me to take a leave of absence from teaching for 2 years, 1 year to learn the business, the second year to do the business. And I got to tell you, it's been an incredible ride. I hope you have a handout. The handout starts with Ministering to Young Adult Catholic Models of Ministry. I'm going to move down and use the microphone. We'll see if this will work. And I'm going to ask Diane to graciously gently move to the side, and we'll see what we can do. All right, are we still with me? Ooh, I love it when microphones work. What I am proposing here, again with limited time, we've done our best to give you absolutely as much as we think will be incredibly helpful. But I want to start with the look at a 7-stage plan. And this is mostly for people doing ministry at the parish level or organizational level or even institutional level if you're religious life, religious order. This is what we propose. Everything that I do is outlined in the basic guide again, but just a quick overview. Number 1, reputation. What are people saying about your place or your religious order or your institution, your diocesan-wide, whatever? What are people saying? Are people saying that it's an exciting thing? Are people saying that only old people are a part of it? Are people saying that it's alive and that the music is fabulous? What do you hear? And you can't ask the people in the first pew. You have to ask, the people. You got to ask everybody. What are people saying about the place? That's the first thing. The second thing, number 2, and our sociological friends will love this, you got to take inventory. You got to get the data. You have to take all of the information that you've heard here today and see what it says to the people who you are trying to reach. But do the inventory and see if what people told you was the reputation of the place is true. Oh, only older people go to my parish. Well, then on Sunday, march in, sit in the back, and take inventory. And that's a telling sign how many people are in the church on Sunday. And Mass is certainly a predictor of all sorts of other things. Where are the places that young adults are connected? We define young adult ministry in terms of people in their 20s and 30s, married and single. It's not a singles organization. It's married and single. It's not a teen club. We're beyond that. In the Archdiocese of Chicago, we have youth ministry, campus ministry, and young adult ministry. Young adult ministry being a few years on the job. I mean, you're in the real world. You're doing some work. All right, where are young adults connected? In the inventory place, if you're in a parish, look at people who are the ministers on Sunday. How many young adults are Eucharistic ministers? How many young adults are ushers? How many are greeters? How many people are in the choir? How many are the lectors? How many young adults are active in all sorts of different areas? How many young adults are on the parish council, parish commissions, finance committee? Where are young adults active in the parish, and where could they be? Number 3 says integration. Where could there be more young adult participation than there is? And how can we make that happen? And this is going to fly past you guys really fast. Hang on, it is quite a ride. So, some suggestions for parish activities. Let's see if I can bring that in focus just a little better for you. There you go. Current parish activities focusing primarily on young adults. Who's in the RCIA program? A lot of people tell us we don't have any young adults or we can't find our young adults. Who's in the RCIA process? Who's getting married? Who's going through the pre-Cana stuff? Where are their baptisms taking place? Who's going through the baptismal prep courses? Current places where young adults could easily be integrated, parish governance. Is there young adult representation on any level of whatever you're doing? Are young adults in on the decision making? Are they catechists, liturgical ministers, marriage enrichment, formation, family programs, support groups of all sorts of levels, the divorce support group, grief support group? What are the organizations of your place? Where are young adults connected? Small faith groups, Lenten small faith groups, what a wonderful opportunity to connect people in their 20s and 30s. Athletic programs, men's, women's societies, all sorts of programs. And let me tell you, as you're taking inventory and looking at ways to integrate young adults into the life of parish, look for structural problems that prevent young adults from attending. My most recent parish, St. Mary's, had an ACCW, the Archdiocesan Council of Catholic Women group, that met every single Wednesday morning from 10 until noon, and if you chose to stay for lunch, that'd be great. Well, how many working women could come every single Wednesday from 10 until noon? I could never, ever, ever go to the Women's Society. Once I learned who was there, I wasn't sure that I wanted to go to the Women's Society. Or what they did, and they did some wonderful, wonderful things, but it was always around what had always been done in always a particular way. But sometimes the system means that young adults can't be a part of it. Many parishes where I go just as a consultant, being in a diocesan office, they say that they want more young adults connected as Eucharistic ministers and lectors and all of that. And I say, well, what's your system for getting Eucharistic ministers? Well, you know, we invite them and then we send out this card and they have to send it back and they have to schedule themselves for 3 months in advance. That's not unreasonable, is it? For young adults, it is unreasonable. They don't know a week in advance. Their work schedule has to come out. They don't know that they're even in the city, in home. They may be getting on a plane to go on a business trip and getting back. They can't tell you. What if, instead of sending out the card that you have to send back and it's going to take 3 months, you're going to be signed up 3 months in advance, what if you always held 5 positions for Eucharistic ministers at your most popular young adults, and you put together a team of young adults to personally call them or email them, Wednesday before the Sunday? Is that doable? Sometimes we have to look at our organizations and say there's some systemic problem that's prohibiting young adults from participating. Parish cluster issues, We're going to fly by. Sorry about that. Moving right along. Buy the book. Sorry about that. Invitation. Step number 4 is we use the Jesus method of invitation. We say that Jesus didn't put a sign on a palm tree that said, anybody want to be an apostle? Sign up here. Meeting's at 6:30, bring a friend. Jesus went from town to town, and he said, you, and you, come on and follow me. That's how Jesus did it. He handpicked people. Is it elitism? Absolutely. If Jesus did it, could we start there? I think we ought to think about it. That if we can directly, personally invite people to be part of things, oh my goodness. Young adults want to help. Young adults want to make a difference with their lives. Young adults want to be connected. Young adults want to serve. Most young adults, like most of us, need to be invited before we'll say yes to things and be part of things. So, direct personal invitation. A lot of places try plopping something in the parish bulletin. Here's another statistic for you folks. Most young adults who go to church, and we know that's about a third, those who actually make it to church will all take home a bulletin, and most will never read it. There you go. The bulletin is not enough. The bulletin is good for informing parents what's going on and other governance in the parish. Hey, there are some great things for young adults about to happen at St. Joe's. Consider being part of this. They will tell their sons and daughters and godsons and goddaughters, and sometimes we collect names and numbers of young adults by putting a blurb in the parish bulletin. We've got some exciting things about to happen. If you know any young adults who should be invited to this, and you've got to define it, people in their 20s and 30s, please let us know. Chances are the young adults you're trying to reach aren't there to see that, but their parents are, and they'll turn them in a second. So not to worry about that. If you're looking for young adults, use the bulletin to help you find them, but know that the bulletin is not the way to invite them. Number 5 says separate but similar activities. For example, we've had a number of parishes in the Archdiocese of Chicago have widow and widowers group for young adults. And sadly, widows and widowers group for the parish. Sadly, some young adults who have lost a spouse at a very young age have tried to attend those groups and come back horribly disappointed because everybody there is 60 or older and they've been together for 20 years, for a long, long, long time. And it's no longer a widow or widowers group. Now it's a social event. Can you create, at the diocesan level, an outreach for people in their 20s and 30s who have lost a spouse, where people could come together for a certain number of weeks, once a month, because you have to respect that young adults are incredibly busy people. Come together once a month, talk about the pain, talk about the issues, talk about how you're going to redefine life now that the love of your life is gone. Build relationships and then move on. Separate but similar. Number 6, occasional activities. We have a rule of thought that says a few things done very well far outweighs doing a ton of things, no matter what level you're at. A few things done very well far outweighs doing a ton of things. So we had one woman that tried to set up an event every single Friday night of the year. Every single Friday night. Well, you know who's going to come? People that have nothing else to do. It's sad. It's hard. It becomes people's social surrogate life, where good, strong, healthy young adults, if they see a really strong event, will try their best to make time for it. It'll become a priority, and you'll get them once or twice a month, unless it's something like the small faith group that you can do on a weekly basis for a very short amount of time, like Lenten small faith groups. Okay? I know we're going really fast, but we're just going to keep moving. Occasional things done well. Number 7 says the option of doing new movements. What would be exciting? What would be energizing? The church in its heyday had all of the movements. We had Young Christian Workers and Christian Family Movement and CYO, all the different movements. We had the parish work going and we had the movement work going because, let's face it, parish can't be everything for everybody. But with the parish activities and the movement activities, you could reach a broader range of people and meet a broader range of goals. We've lost our movements. And when the movement started in Chicago, the directors of those movements were in their 20s and 30s. And now it's those same people, 30, 40 years later, still in charge of those movements. For some reason, we failed to hand on the baton. So what can we do to reignite, to get some energy around things and move it forward? It's going to take creativity. It's going to take some imagination. And we Catholics are so good at that. But for some reason, we've gotten kind of stuck in a couple of places. So a 7-stage plan for what that's worth. You have to translate it into your own situation. When we open it up for questions and comments, we can talk more about any one of those. B says offer great church. Sunday is critical. If you have no money whatsoever and you want to do one thing, any one thing that will increase the active participation of young adults, do something to strengthen liturgy. Figure out what Mass that you and young adults in your area can get to. It tends to be populated by young adults. And it's not, as we know, the 7 o'clock Sunday morning. It may or may not be 4 o'clock Saturday evening. We have found the later Masses on Sunday, and especially evening Masses on Sunday, are great young adult times. Great young adult times. So, what can you do at even one Mass? If you can't do it every Sunday, what could you do once a month to extend an invitation to young adults so that they know that there will be an emphasis that all of the Eucharistic ministers will be young adults? That the music will have a more contemporary feel. Powerful music. Not necessarily fast, rock music, but powerful music. Music that's going to move you in some way. Young adults that talk to us define good church in 3 ways. They want good music, good preaching, good hospitality. The order that they wanted is good preaching, good music, good hospitality. All of the preachers in the room, you've got quite a responsibility. And when we talk about what is good preaching for young adults, they say, tell me something that's relevant. Tell me something that's going to be helpful to me. And the young adults in the room, I hope we have time later, can share more about what would be helpful in terms of preaching. When I moved to a new neighborhood, and young adults are moving constantly, physically, just getting a new address, I went into a parish, and the whole homily, honest to goodness, it had to be 15 minutes long, I was dying, was about the importance of doing your homework, because it was in September and the kids had gone back to school. And I'm all in favor of families, and as a teacher, I love the educational system, but a whole homily on doing your homework, I thought that was just a bit much. But anyway, good music, good preaching, good hospitality. Number 2, again, personally invite young adults into leadership positions. Who are the young adult leaders in your place? Who are the leaders that you know? Who can you call together and have a dinner somewhere? Have pizza night. Grab people after Mass. Who can you bring together to talk about what they would love to see happen within your organization or within your parish? Listen to them. It's a dialogue. We can't rely anymore on how many people are just going to come to us. The young adults have lost touch because many of their parents have lost touch. And if their parents aren't going to church, why should they be going to church? What is church? Why is church relevant? How does it work in my life? If we're saying that we are spiritual people, we can help. We have a lot of, Dean was talking about the richness of our Catholic tradition. Oh my gosh. We have an incredibly rich Catholic tradition, but we've not taught what that is and how that works, and so young adults are looking elsewhere. Maybe the Buddhists have some stuff, and they can, the self-help section of Borders has a whole bunch of stuff. People are looking elsewhere because they don't understand what we have to offer. All right, number 3 says offer different types of programming, and this is more for parish-based young adult ministry than it is for diocesan. That we say anything we do in church is going to have these 4 areas: service, spiritual, serious, and social. The social is easy. We like to party. Young adults like to get together and relax. Work is hard. School is tough. Things are beating on you all week. Where can you go to relax? Where can you be with people your own age who share your values? Where can you go to have a good time? That's what this is all about. You don't have to think. You don't have to do anything but show up. Another rule aside, you get one shot at it. If it's good, people will come back. If it's bad, they won't. That's all. You get one shot at it. Number 2, serious things. Our program called Theology on Tap is what we call a serious event. It's talking to your head. You're going to do some thinking on there. You're going to break into small groups. You're going to talk to people. Current events is in here. Religious education is in here. The baptismal preparation is in. It's serious stuff. You're just going to come together. Finances, what's going on with the church, sex abuse stuff, where are we at, what's election, where are we at as a country, stem cell research. I mean, this is serious stuff. Let's come together and connect on some issues and figure out what does the church teach and why and how can we connect and what should we be about. Spiritual things, retreats, days of reflection, how do we go deeper spiritually, spiritual direction. Service opportunities. Young adults love to make a difference. And when you're working at your job all week and you don't see how your job connects to building the kingdom of God, especially when you're in one of those jobs that you don't see the direct correlation, you want to go feed the hungry, you want to build the homes, in Appalachia, you want to do something more significant. So service opportunities. The amount of area in each section says how many people are going to come. You're going to have a lot more young adults show up at a social event than you will a service event. The more you require from people, the fewer people you're going to get. And that's for a number of different reasons. Number 1, their lives are just incredibly busy. Incredibly busy. Number 2, they're tired. At the end of a work week, when they're being forced to work, not 40, not 50, often 60, 70 hours a week, there's not a lot of time for a lot of other stuff. But the stuff that's a direct recharge will get you some stuff. So social things where you just come together and relax. Serious things, you're going to do some sharing and meet some people. Those are the 4 areas, and we suggest connecting with your young adults and seeing, is there one area where they would like to see something happen? So if you can offer some good Bible study, or you can offer one service project a year, or you can offer an occasional speaker series or talk, or you can offer an occasional get-together, that will go far. By the way, the things young adults are interested in has changed over the 16 years that I've been in the Young Adult Ministry Office. Number one issue for young adults? Relationships. We want to get connected. We want to be loved. We want to know who we will love. We don't want to be alone. So many people live alone. They don't want to be alone. That loneliness starts to sink in, especially for the singles. And let me tell you, some of our marrieds are incredibly lonely. Relationship is key in both worlds. Secondly, it used to be work. The baby boomers, work was it. Your career was big, and you spent a ton of time there. Now you work so that you've got money to live. It's different. The second issue for young adults now is spirituality, spiritual growth. They want to connect. And thirdly is work. And not only work. My dad drove a truck for Butternut Brands, and that was fine for him. That's all that he wanted. Today's young adults are looking to do some meaningful work. Something that they love, something that's a passion of theirs, something where they really think they're making a difference. So it's a different sense of connecting. And when you connect faith and work, you get a lot further, a lot faster. So, okay, number 4, consider offering such services as spiritual direction, career counseling, marriage enrichment, discernment workshops. You'll know when you ask young adults what they're looking for. That's the best way to know what you can offer at your place or through your organization, is to ask them. Moving to Roman numeral number 2, the second model that I've listed here is the Theology on Tap model. Theology on Tap is a summer speaker and discussion series in the Archdiocese of Chicago. It was started 25 years ago. This year we're celebrating our 25th anniversary as a response to some members from the parish meeting their college students at University of Illinois in Champaign. They had a wonderful dinner. How's it going? What's going on? What's it like living outside of mom and dad's house? And are you going to church? And all those things were talked about. And then it became a real deep discussion about life. And at the end of the night, those students, one of the students said to Father Jack Wall, who was one of the people that was on that trip, he said, "Father, wouldn't it be great if we could do this on a regular basis?" And Jack, on the 2-hour drive back to Chicago, thought, why can't we do this on a regular basis? So by the time those students came home from school for the summer, he had a 5-week speaker and discussion series in place for them. Talked about God, talked about Jesus, talked about church, what it is, talked about the young adult experience. What a great opportunity for evangelization to personally invite young adults to come together, and catechesis to teach the faith, to teach the critical elements of the faith. The way that it works is somebody on the staff, somebody in your organization has to form a committee. And we want it to be of young adults. Young adults are incredible leaders in the workplace. Incredible leaders. They're financially adept with multi-million-dollar accounts. They're lawyers and doctors and teachers and blue-collar workers that are building all of the, the train system. And incredible things are happening. They're building the Sears Tower. When they walk into their churches, they feel like little tiny children. What can we do to let young adults know that their gifts are appreciated? Oh my gosh. And to acknowledge that they have those gifts. We invite them together and we say, we need to learn from you. What would you love to see happen here? What would you and your friends come to? And is there any possibility that you might have just a little bit of time to help us get there? And I would put the emphasis on the first 2 of those things. Usually by the end of a meeting like that, the third one will happen naturally. I'm pretty good on the computer. I can send out an email or build a website or do whatever. All right, so you need a sympathetic staff member. Number 2, you need to train people how to do outreach and hospitality. Unlike our Protestant brothers and sisters, we Catholics don't do that very well. So we have to talk about that. Number 3, letter C, the committee invites their peers to come together and host the evening. The larger your committee is, the more people will participate. D, after listening to the needs and wants, the committee with the staff member and other supportive leaders chooses speakers, and that's the part of catechesis. And again, if you ask young adults what they're looking for, they will tell you. You don't have to worry about, oh my goodness, what should we offer them? They will let you know what they want to make happen. Again, in young adult ministry, we stress the word adult. They're not teenagers any longer. And a lot of them have been educated, have gone through good youth ministry programs or good campus ministry programs, and we have a leadership base that we're not necessarily tapping into. And finally, names and numbers are always collected. Always, always, always. Make sure you collect emails, and make sure you ask people to print them very carefully so you can read them, so that they'll get the stuff you send out to them. And I know there are some people here that are major factors in Theology on Tap, and we will connect with you as we do our answering our questions back and forth. Two other models real quickly. The area-wide regional model on the back side of your handout. That's where several parishes pool resources. There are a lot of places that simply don't have a lot of young adults in the area or don't have the means by which to organize things. If you can connect with 2 or 3 other parishes, you double or triple your efforts, and you know the base of where things are happening. You've got more ground to cover. People can come to different things that will be close to them at least once in the 3-parish cycle. Regional activities, just expand your resources. And in order to do that, I've laid out a little process there. We can come back to that if you have any questions on that. But basically, the same process as you do on the parish. You're going to do some direct personal invitation. You're going to connect with leaders. You're going to pull young adults together. You're going to have dialogue with them about what they would love to see happen and what they can make happen. You send them off, and like Jesus' apostles, they build a church. Okay? All right, and the fourth one there, a diocesan model of young adult ministry, suggests that we are a parish to an age group. Father Cusick and I do every single thing that a parish does except manage buildings. I got to tell you, it's nice not to manage buildings. But we offer sacramental preparation, we offer sacraments, we bring people to Eucharist, we visit churches, we do fundraising, we do service projects, we do serious programming. We do things that are larger than any one parish is able to do, and we gather people that way. Some of what we do might be considered a movement. Theology on Tap now has become so popular as a program that works in gathering people in their 20s and 30s. That it's spread across the country, it's now spread across the world, it's going to different places very quickly and being translated into different languages. Now we are in partnership with Renew International. It's going to go big, hopefully within the next year. There's already staff people working on the project. But good things are happening in places and ways that it wouldn't necessarily be able to happen in any one church. And actually, Theology on Tap was designed to be an area-wide outreach. Young adults from wherever are welcome. We get young adults who aren't even Catholic to just come in and get a sense for what it means to be Catholic. On a diocesan level, you are an advocate to young adults at the parish and diocesan levels when you're with your colleagues in diocesan offices, and you provide pastoral ministry directly to young adults. Theology on Tap is our best example. Last year we hosted it in 50 parishes simultaneously, 1 night a week for 4 consecutive weeks. We also had 3 other dioceses contiguous to ours hosting it, so that ups it up to about 75, 80 parishes. We all come together after the 4th week for Mass at Holy Name Cathedral with Cardinal George and the Cardinal Sons of Salvi's Blessing. We have a party with him right after Mass. It's a fabulous Catholic experience. And to be at the cathedral with hundreds, thousands, we usually have about 1,200 people at the Mass and about 800 to 1,000 at the party with Cardinal George afterward. That's a statement on what it means to be Catholic. And those people who attend see that they are part of a larger church. It's not only your own little parish, it's wider. It's not only your own little area, your own suburb, your own part of the city. It's wider. Okay. And I think with that, I'm just going to say at the bottom there, a couple other resources. Our website, you're always welcome to jump to, yamchicago.org. The Basic Guide to Young Adult Ministry will have all of this explained in much greater detail. If there's any way that we can help you, by all means, I have my business card. I'll have it on the table. Happy to do that. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Diane.
Well, it's a privilege to be here. It's a hard act to follow, but I'm going to look at this whole effort at Young Adult Ministry just from a little different perspective. I'm Diane Guy. I am from the Diocese of Richmond. I am the Director of Campus and Young Adult Ministry for our diocese. We are 34,000 square miles. We go from the mountain to the sea. We have 68 campuses, college campuses, either four-year or university institutions. We have Appalachia. We are a very, very diverse diocese. And we have divided over the years. We have looked at young adult ministry and we have said young adult ministry is either campus-based or parish-based. And we've treated it that way, with special programs for campuses and special programs for the parishes. We have relied heavily on the two documents from the United States Catholic Conference, Empowered by the Spirit and Sons and Daughters of the Light. Our young people on leadership teams, that for the campus, they certainly know about Empowered by the Spirit. They may not be able to list all the qualities, but they know about it. Sons and Daughters of the Light, our young adults on leadership teams know the four goals. Connect with Jesus, connect with the church, connect with the mission of the church in the world, and connect with your peers. I say to them all the time, I have read a lot of pastorals out of the USCCB. They assume community. The pastoral Sons and Daughters of the Light, as far as I know, is the only one who makes it intentional. Connect with your peers. We look, for young adult ministry, we look at everything that we do, and we make sure that we are achieving one of those goals. We look at by the month or by the 2 months, are we doing something to help move those goals forward? With Empowered by the Spirit, our whole evaluation process of campus ministry is based on the qualities that are listed in Empowered by the Spirit. Now, what this does for the young adults, we say, we're real clear about this. This ministry has been launched by the National Church in the United States. This is an official ministry of the church. Isn't that wonderful? And it makes it special for them. I think we've done that on the right track. In campus ministry, we have about 25 professionals on our different campuses. The rest of the campuses are staffed by near parish pastors or near parish somebody who goes onto the campus. After over 25 years, we have 6 professionals on parish staffs who have young adult ministry somewhere in their job description. I said to our secretary, Lisa, Lisa, we said we were going to put their names on the website. When are we going to do that? And she said, well, Diane, we don't have all the names on. I said, this is the work of a long period of time, and we have 6. They're going up there on the website. Now, what we have done, though, with parish-based young adult ministry is called the young adults to leadership. We have named parish contact people for every parish, and it's a young adult. They're all published on our website. They're published in our newsletter every 3 months, so that a young adult could get in touch with a group at a parish by going through the young adult parish contact. So we've done our best to substitute that. In our diocese, prior to 1971, we had ministry of the big campuses, the Virginia Techs, the William & Marys, the UVAs. After 71, we started ministry at the other campuses. So it's been going along pretty well since, I would say, 71. With regard to young adult ministry, in 1977, we started talking about young adult ministry. We brought in groups of people. We asked whether or not this was a possibility and all that. In 1980, we had a diocesan convocation. We called it Unite for Justice. And it was to set the agenda for the 1980s. There were 40 proposals that came out of that convocation, and 3 dealt with the needs of young adults. We were so surprised. That was the beginning, the real beginning of young adult ministry for us, the result of that convocation. In 1980, when you looked around the country, you had young adult ministry in Chicago, you had young adult ministry in Raleigh, North Carolina, and here we were. I was asked to begin young adult ministry in Norfolk, and we began it as a parish-based ministry. We were the first to really, in a very intentional way, go into the parishes and ask them to begin to identify their young adults. And you know how those conversations went. Could you tell me about? Could you give me a list of your young adults? We don't have any. Okay. Could we put a notice in your parish bulletin, and 3 people would show up, and you meet with them, and then you say, would you bring 3 of your friends? And you meet with them, and you say, would you continue to bring more of your friends? For parish-based young adult ministry, as I look back on it, I think all the big leaps were serendipitous. We planted lots of seeds, we had lots of goals, we had lots of objectives, we planted the seeds, and yet there were just special moments that made things change. There was absolutely no intention that young adult ministry would go beyond Norfolk, and the people in Virginia Beach said, oh, it's not there, they have it, and we don't. You know? And then Newport News said, that's not there. And so it was a serendipitous leap, and it began moving across the diocese. In the beginning, I went to every parish to meet with the group. And after a couple of years, the young people said to me, Diane, this isn't fair. You're the only one who knows everybody. We should begin meeting regionally. And so we did. It wasn't a plan. We just began. In 1980, I went to the diocesan offices to do what happens in church. If you do something well, you get to do more of it more often over a larger geographic area for the same amount of pay or less. And you don't. you just keep moving on, you know. And that's what we did, and we kept reproducing things. I have spent since 1980 calling young adults to leadership, telling them it is their ministry, teaching them how to do this. One of our principles is the people who gather make the decisions. The other one is that we make all our decisions by consensus. Since 1980, we have never taken a vote. There have never been winners and losers when we gather. We work it through, and we work it through until we get to the point that we just say, can you live with this? What has happened currently down in Tidewater, and again, it was a serendipitous moment. There was a talk that our diocese would divide. We were getting a new bishop, and there would be a division of the diocese. Tidewater would become its own diocese, and so on. So the young adults said, it's not fair, Diane, if we divide, you will go with Richmond. We don't know each other. We need to begin meeting together. And so now I go to a meeting. There are representatives from parishes. There are 20 people filled with energy, filled with project ideas, ready to go. It's absolutely the most exciting thing. The list of activities, we have an engineer who has taken on the project of being the communication person for that whole area. The list of projects from now until August 15 is at least this long. It names points of contact, it names places to go, and you know what? Every goal in Sons and Daughters of the Light is in there. Every single one. They feed the homeless, they do Bible study, they have religious education programs, and they have a good time. All of them are in there. And so my job has been to just keep raising these goals that have been given to us by the Bishops' Conference. What is common to both campus and young adult ministry is our leadership development program. We do the same thing on campuses. We have campuses with 8,000 Catholics, we have campuses with 10,000 Catholics, and we have 2 campus ministers. And we just say to the students, the only way we can do this is with you. Every campus has a leadership group. They have discernment processes. They bring the students together. The students are in charge of committees. The committees have coordinators to do ya. My job when I go to the campuses is to sit with the students and to say to them, in the name of the Catholic Diocese of Richmond, I thank you. We only have this ministry because of you. Our campus ministers have to be people who are about empowering and calling forth leadership. We don't need anybody in there who's going to do the show by themselves. We can't do it that way. Same with young adult ministry. We just keep calling them and asking them to share their gifts with the community. I sincerely believe that this is the hope for the future, and that these people are involved in church, and their voices are being heard. Their voices are being heard. We very intentionally make sure that all of our leadership groups have goals and objectives. They have a vision statement, and the vision statement is about church. And I let them do it themselves. And I have to tell you that most of their vision statements you would recognize as the themes for World Youth Days. Those days are not lost. And so we've got lots of salts of the earth, we are the salt of the earth. Whatever the World Youth Day theme is, that somehow they catch on to it. So we have vision statements and we have goals and objectives, because I think it's important in teaching leadership that at the end of 6 months, at the end of a year, they can look back and say, we have done something. We are moving. There's got to be a measurable way that they know that they are moving on. They are making a difference. And they are achieving the goals. I think since we began in 1980, the most significant change that has happened is the new technologies. I don't know how we did ministry before email. I just cannot remember how we did it. My email list for young adults is over 1,200 emails. The young man down in Tidewater, I've never actually asked Matt what he has, but everybody in Tidewater just gives him their email address. We keep them going, and we do much of our communication, almost all of our communication that way. In Lent and Advent, we have a work week prayer. And we use the scriptures of the day. We organize it. The young adults write the prayer. It comes in. We have 600 email addresses on our work week prayer list. And it goes out. And it goes for so much further than we could ever dream because of email. During Advent, we missed a day. Somebody didn't write the prayer. And if they don't write the prayer, I don't write it for them. If somebody misses, that's it. They're responsible. They didn't write the prayer. So none went out. And I got a call from someone whose husband is over in Iraq. And she said, Diane, where's the prayer? We send it to Iraq every day. I send it to Kevin. And Kevin takes it off and gives it to his friends. I got just another handle on these new technologies. Now, the young people say that new technologies are definitely email and cell phone, and that's how they keep connected. I don't give out my cell phone number, but they stay connected by cell phone, and so I can't comment on that, what difference that has made, but nevertheless. On the diocesan level with young adult ministry, and so I'm talking about the Young Adult Ministry Committee that has representatives from all over the diocese, we have made a very special effort to look at multicultural issues and to be a multicultural committee and to be multicultural when we gather. which means that we had to begin to reach out to just in whole new ways. Look at the Hispanic community that is in our diocese. Look at the Filipino community in our diocese that had not been gathering with us in the past. And so just figure out how we're going to be sure that all the cultures of the church who are in our diocese are with us when we gather. We're better at it, but we've been working at it for about 5 years. This one was not easy. This is a toughie, but we're doing it. I do think, I just wanted to mention this, that for both Chicago and for Richmond, the longevity of the leadership has made a big difference in where we are at this point. That we have been able to keep evaluating and growing, and it has been consistent. And I think I need to mention that for people who are wondering how you get to where we are. I think the longevity factor is important. Another piece that I wanted to mention is, parishes get so discouraged. They get started with young adult groups and everything's wonderful, and then so-and-so meets so-and-so and so-and-so, and then they get transferred and they get transferred. And so then a parish who in September thought they had a young adult group, by February there's nobody left, and there's, oh no, we're not going to begin again, And we have to just keep encouraging the parishes, and we have to keep encouraging the young adults to always be invitational, to always keep inviting new people in. If they're moving on and they have a specific task, to show somebody else how to do it, and we have to say this over and over again. And I'm an old physics teacher. I'd rather emphasize physics teacher than old, but anyway, a physics teacher. And I keep using the sine curve as an example. And you know that sine curve is just one way to explain what happens to groups. It's the great honeymoon period, and it's wonderful, and then we level off. And then it seems to me that this piece of the sine curve is longer than, it takes a long time, and it's the disintegration part. And then you move back into the refounding. And I think we have to work harder at it in young adult ministry, because we have to keep telling young people to invite new people in, to be hospitable, and to mentor. See, the college folks don't have that problem because they move on every 4 years anyway. So, they're used to it. It's different than the parish-based young adult ministry. Another image that we're using in both campus and young adult ministry, and I'm sure you've heard this, we're saying there are 3 tiers to ministry, and the first tier is that group that sits at the table to make decisions. The second tier, and what we're using as an example, is the crowd that shows up at church on Sunday, and sometimes, occasionally, they'll be part of what's going on. Most of the time they aren't. And the third tier is those thousands and thousands of young people out there who are Catholic, who we don't touch and we don't see. And this, although we continue to work with the multicultural issues, this is our next piece to begin to work at. How are we going to do better and more effective with the third tier, that huge group out there? On campuses, go to campuses and 100 people show up for the spaghetti dinner, and the data says there are 8,000 Catholics there. It's wonderful the 100 people show up, but we have to keep saying, where are we with regard to the others? Are we on grounds? Are we offering programs that are helpful? On and on. I sent out email to our parish contacts, our campus ministers, and I said to them, what would you say if you were asked to talk about models that are helpful for young adult ministry? One of them said, we say that numbers aren't important, but they are. There is an energy that comes if there's a critical mass of people who show up for an event. And I think what has helped us is we are parish-based. There are parish events, but any parish event that is open to a region, we circulate and we advertise. Every parish is is welcome to have an event that is not open to everybody. But if they want to open it to everybody, we will advertise it. There's something to be said about consistency of program, and the example that was given was, the first Sunday of every month we will go out for potluck, so we will go out for dinner. That way, for young adults who aren't in town for 3 weeks out of the year, when they show up, that potluck dinner will still go on. So there needs to be a consistency in programs. Somebody said activities are planned for young adult time, and Kate referred to that. This person just did the young adult time. Bible study on Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock is not helpful. It does, though, move you into a mode that you can't, if you're doing campus and young adult ministry, you can't work morning, noon, and night. We're beginning to say we work 2 out of those 3 blocks because you can't do all 3 blocks all the time. Personally, I was thinking about myself and as working with both the students and those in the parishes, and what's important. And I viewed 2 videotapes. One of the videotapes was on the millennial generation, the other was on Generation X, and they were business tapes, and they were talking about managers. And they said, who do the people who do they relate to, and what are the qualities of the managers that are helpful for either millennials or Generation X? One of the groups said, we want a manager who walks the walk and talks the talk. And the other one said, we want to be able to trust the manager. And as I looked at those 2, I thought, that goes for ministry also. When our young people look at us, they want somebody who walks the walk and talks the talk, and that they trust. And to be with this age group, you have to be willing to be honest. You have to be honest. There's no show here. For me personally, one of the things that I have taken very seriously is that I model hospitality. If I go into a room and there's anybody in that room that I don't know, I go over and introduce myself and get to know them. Hospitality is key. I listened to the discussion up here on why young adults are participating in church and not participating in church with regard to issues. I want to submit that the issue is that they do not feel welcome. Nobody is welcoming them into church. If you have not had an experience of going into a church by yourself, if that's your family or your spouse, try it. It's tough. It's tough. But my entire life through Norfolk, I had been either with my family or my religious community, and I could walk in church and somebody introduced me to somebody to introduce me. When I went to Richmond was the first time I was by myself, and I went into church, and it's tough. There's nobody there to introduce people who come in alone. And so that's what especially our single people are doing, and we need to model hospitality. We also, when we get to know them, we need to invite them and affirm them. Invite them into leadership positions, invite them to be on committees, and affirm them. It's the greatest thing that can happen to them is that they are affirmed. I work with a group at CMLI, it's the Campus Ministry Leadership Institute, and you're with them for, seems like eternity, but I think it's only about 5 or 6 days, and you're working on a project. It just goes on and on and on. And at the end, we evaluated each other and how we had participated in the project. When it got to me, there was this silence, and one of them said, Diane, not once this week did you judge us. Not one time. And they all agreed, and they said, thank you. Now, I wasn't real sure what that meant. So I went to somebody, a campus minister, and I said to the campus minister, what does that mean? And they said, you don't get it. He said they're judged in school, they're judged by their peers, they're judged by their teachers. That's what it is to be a young adult today. And so this is something that if we're going to minister with them, we have to catch on to. We have to affirm them, we have to be invitational and non-judgmental. Because our office does both campus ministry and young adult ministry, we do our very, very best. I'm on to a new subject now. We do our very, very best at that transfer piece between campus ministry and young adult ministry, or campus ministry and go back to the parish. That is a tough transition. It is a very hard transition. We haven't done it well. We keep asking our young adults in parishes to be welcoming of the college students as they come back to parish. On our website, we have a list of every diocesan office that has young adult ministry, so that they can go to the website if they're being transferred out of town. They can find the website. They can find where to go to church. Graduating seniors from college, we give them bookmarks that they can fill in and send to us if they're staying in the diocese, and we can send them on to parishes and we can invite them. It's a tough transition. Last year in May, Notre Dame did a symposium, and it was on transitions. It was transitions from youth ministry to campus ministry to parish-based ministry. I would say they were very unsuccessful in hitting right there on what that transition was like. They're going to do it again. They're going to look at that again. That is our toughest challenge, I believe, for our parishes of the future, is inviting people back into the parish. I just have one comment on what Kate said about theology on tap. When we got to that point that we wanted to do more with religious education, I wrote to Chicago and I asked them if they would share their information on how they do theology on tap, and I took it to our planning committee. Now we're the South. They simply would not call it theology on tap. I said, okay, what are we going to call it? Well, out of the Dominican tradition, we call it Summer Theologica. But it is theology on tap. However, and we acknowledge Chicago every single year, and we pray for them and all that, but we call it Summer Theologica. And if you want to know what's on their minds, I sit with them, and they submit all the topics. And that's the deal we have. They submit the topics, and I find the speakers. I would say the topic that we have done every year for the last 5 years is a topic called the first 5 years of marriage. What they're saying to us, and you've heard them say it, you get us to the altar and you leave us there. This is very populated. We have people who travel from city to city, go out to dinner, and then come to Summer Theologica for things that are important to them. I heard the data this morning, Dina, it was you. I think your data was 25% of the marriages are interfaith or interchurch marriages. It's more. Ours is 75% in our diocese. We have priests in our diocese who have never celebrated the sacrament during marriage, and so we're always doing ecumenical this and ecumenical that, and it's just something that's important to us. Morality, the Summer Theologica that comes up summer after summer is how do we raise our children to be moral people. Big one. And then we have the traditional ones. What does it mean to be Catholic, prayer, saints, and all that. But if you want to know what's important to them, I think you could look at what they are suggesting for topics. It's critical. And then the only other thing I can say is, in an effort to keep both campus and parish together and help with that transition, we have just one website, and it's the Campus and Young Adult Ministry website, and all campus activities are on there and all young adult activities are on there. And what we hope is when the students leave the campus that they will remember that they tripped through the young adult things too, and that we can help even then transition more. Thank you.
suppose it's the third tier that Sister Diane referred to that links the first and the second sessions, the folks who should be there but aren't. On the other hand, this session gave us, I think, a note of hope with which to start this next round of questions and comments. It's possible, I think, to also direct questions to the first set of panelists. Where are they all? There's Bill, where's Steve? Oh, he's just great task of embarrassing him. But if you would like to, I think they would also be willing to respond to questions. So the floor, once again, is open.
I'm going to ask our two participants here. One of you touched on small faith communities as an element here. I wonder if you could elaborate on that as a model for young adult Catholic formation and what your experience has been.
We have in the Archdiocese of Chicago, because we're a diocesan office, everybody's spread out all over the place. And when we ask people, invite people into small faith groups, it's not uncommon for 200 or 300 young adults to say, I'd love to do that. The trick then is finding places. So the best way to do small faith groups through experience is to find a hub. You need a place and you need a leader, somebody to call people together, a facilitator. We establish those places around the Archdiocese. Then we bring the leaders together for a training session, basically, on how to do small faith groups. We do it both by written material or we'll do it website. Again, that email thing is so important. Train the leaders, and then they go back as apostles, 2 by 2, and then they create based on us saying this group is meeting on this night at this time or this afternoon at this time. So, but the model, young adults love to connect, they love to share their faith. Our experience has been very, very positive with it. The trick is that young adult schedules are so busy, and even if you say you're going to be part of it through the 6 weeks of Lent, you may not be able to be part of it. You may miss 2 or 3, and is that okay? That's got to be okay. We stack the deck. Ideally, we love to see 6 to 8 people in a group. We'll line up 10 to 12 so that you have 6 to 8 people in a meeting.
We have not tried to do that on the parish level. We're very effective with it, though, at the campus level. But there again, they're geographically together. And there are faith groups that have gone through 4 years together. And one parent has called me about it and said, all my daughter does is at the faith group and she goes to church on Sunday. But this has held her together and held her instead during her 4 years in college.
Yes.
For Sister, have you made any particular outreach to all the young military people that are on the bases in Tidewater but not aligned with parishes?
They know that they are welcome at every activity that we do, and my bulletin announcements go to the parishes on the base. So we have many military people who do identify with us, and I would just say that in '93, the Army, the military chaplains in the Army asked us to do some training with them on the needs of young adults, and we did it. We did it in Atlanta, and 2 of us went to Germany, and 2 of us went to Hong Kong. So, unfortunately, in the States anyway, the parishes are geared at families. They are not geared for the single people in the military. It's really a shame. And so that's all we can do. We send the bulletin announcements and we invite them.
And to tag team on that, Diane, I just found out that the Archdiocese of Military Service just hired a full-time contact for young adults in the Archdiocese of Military Service, and they are piloting with the Paulists in 3 different bases a kind of a theology on tap type of discussion series for folks in the military, and it's going to be available on CD, so it can even go with folks in deployment. And it's a way to keep young adult Catholics alive in their faith, and I've seen some of the pilot materials, and they are excellent.
I'm involved with Catholic Engagement Counter, which is active in Richmond, plus other places. And 40% of the couples are Catholic and Protestant or Orthodox or whatever, interchurch. We urge and 75% of course, we urge the couples to get involved, of course, after the weekend in their marriage. Do you have any insight as to how to smooth that transition? And secondly, how to smooth it for the non-Catholic partner?
One thing I do know, and this is not in print anyplace, is the young couples know where ecumenical couples are welcome. And that's where they go. Again, it's a hospitality question. But so in the city of Richmond, for example, St. Paul's welcomes ecumenical couples. And that's where they go. In Virginia Beach, they go to Ascension. And I don't know how this word gets out. We are very grateful to you for the whole Engaged Encounter movement, because part of it is military. They get engaged and the military goes off, and then how are they going to do marriage preparation? And it just goes on and on. Plus, you have a wonderful website. We link our website to your website, and January 2nd, you can count on the calls coming into our office about how do I do marriage preparation. There's a lot of activity out there between December 25th and January 5th. And we just give them the website and send them on their way. I'm not sure I helped, because I don't really know the answer, except that somehow they know where to go.
So it might be a matter of local communities saying, well, some parishes are very receptive to interchurch couples.
Right.
And in our region, it's St. Mary's or whoever.
I think your local teams know where they're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
We do also in the Archdiocese of Chicago on a diocesan level young married couples groups, because we have found that if they get divorced, if they're separated, there's all sorts of groups for that. But what do you do to keep enrichment going? Where do you send them for that? So we invite young adults, again, like the small faith group model. We find a hub, we find a leading couple, we find two people that will open their homes, that have the space to open their homes, to invite 5 or 6 other couples to come together. And among the group that gathers, maybe there'll be 10 or 12 who actually come to set their agenda as a newly married couple now. What are their needs and interests? And it's everything from how do you keep romance in the marriage to what do you do, how do you deal with the children question and in-laws and 2 career couples and all sorts of stuff. But every couple takes responsibility for one evening. So the group rotates going to each other's homes. You're on to host the gathering and to be discussion leaders for the gathering. And it may be you find an interesting article and work off of that, or it may be there's a particular poem you want to start with, or just the floor is open, what are your concerns, where are you at? So it's a lovely model of everybody takes responsibility for one night. You gather once a month. And it's just, that's for 6 months, you've got this new group of friends who are in a similar situation as you're in. And those first couple months of marriage are hard. That first year is hard. So that's another option.
You put it on the website kind of thing so people would be able to access where these groups are meeting?
Where the groups are meeting, we haven't centralized that on the website. It's much more that they would call us and we would send them, and a lot of them are located within parishes, so I need to do a little research before I know exactly where those are. And hopefully more and more are springing up all the time, but it's not as widespread as we wish it was right now, and being diocesan, it's a little tricky. So it keeps changing, that's why. And then once a group comes together, they don't want new members in, so you got to take it off. And so we don't publish it that way, but good things are happening, and it's a great model. And the strategy for setting up a dialogue group like that is in the Basic Guide to Young Adult Ministry in our book.
Also on our website, I have a whole collection of articles on marriage and getting started, and it's just right there on the website. I have a list of something like 72 couples or something, so that when there's an article in America, I write to America, I get the reprint, electronically on the website. and then send out a notice to those couples and say, if you check the website, there's a new article. And it's also part of our sign up for young adult ministry. Do you want to get articles on for young marrieds? So it's all in there. But that is a big issue, I think, the young marrieds for young ministry. Yes.
I just have a question about, you talked a lot about what young adults are doing together, but is there any kind of sense or any way to gauge how they connect with the parish at large? And do they work with, once they've been doing these things, do they integrate more with, the older Catholics or young, families, or is it more still always separate?
I find that that they return to their parish and take on a job. Now that job could be the usher, it could be a teacher of religious education or something. I always know that young adult ministry is effective in a parish when I can go in on Sunday and there's a young adult as a reader or as a Eucharistic minister, even one. I feel like I need to celebrate. But we do encourage them to get involved back at the parish. And then as years go on, right now at the cathedral, both the finance chair and the what do we call it, diocesan, what do they call that second? Finance and pastoral council. The chair of both of those are people who were active with us through campus and young adult ministry. And so, yeah, it does come around. Yes.
I noticed in your earlier survey that there are a number of vocation ministers here this afternoon. And I was wondering if, in your experiences of young adult ministry, if you have any thoughts or suggestions as to how vocation ministers for religious communities can collaborate or work more closely with people or gain an entree into this whole area of young adult ministry that may be established in either parish programs or through campuses.
I have seen, I've been meeting on a somewhat regular basis with different groups of religious orders, and the vocation question is hard for everybody. It's just a hard issue. The whole young adult question is just hard. But we have seen, let me give you an example. For our conference, we do a conference every year in Chicago. We call it the Focus Conference, where people come together for workshops and mass dinner party, keynote address. We had Bill Rancic from The Apprentice out this past November. It's exciting, and it's alive and fresh and happening. Things are happening. And inevitably, I'll have 50 directors of vocations come to me and say, we want to be at the conference, what can we do? And years ago, I invited whomever wanted to be there to come, and it was almost like, and you have to excuse the expression, fresh meat. That we had bodies, and they needed bodies, so as people were walking down the hallway, people were snatching them up, and you couldn't tell, they were playing tug of war with bodies, so we decided to do it a little differently. Now, in order to come to the conference, you have to have something that you're going to do. So you have to come with information about the Bible study that you're leading, or with opportunities for spiritual direction, or with opportunity for whatever, or with an invitation to a day of discernment, or with something. What the issue is, you don't have an entree point to young adults. And it's not enough to just have a group of young adults that you're going to almost impose upon. And I say that with love because we're all in the same boat. But if you can offer something, you've got to find a place to meet them, whether it might be at the parish or at a specific listening session arranged through a parish or through a diocesan office or through an area-wide outreach to young adult ministry or something. Some point to do a listening session with them and talk to them about what you're interested in, what they're looking for from you, what you can do for them, give them a sense of what you have to offer, the gifts you have to offer. We have seen, at the last listening session I did, one young adult said, when I was 7, Sister came in and talked to all of us girls in the Catholic school about being a nun. But throughout all of her high school experience and her Catholic college experience, nobody invited her to even consider anything. Then when life starts to come at you and you're trying to figure out how to cope, the religion you got as a child doesn't work anymore, and there weren't resources there. So the floor was open for them to ask any question they wanted. And Sister, how do you live? Do you work? I mean, do you get money? I mean, do you have to pay for your own clothes? I mean, the basic questions, they are so far removed from what religious life is. that whole education, that whole training thing has to happen all over again. So my suggestion is to find a place where young adults are gathering, ask if you can sit with them and do a listening session where anything goes. You're gonna pose 3 questions and just listen to what they say, gather feedback, and then work with some credible parish or organization to make a first thing happen. Once a first thing happens, you'll get that reputation for a place that does good things. And again, you have so many so much richness to share. I was with a religious order that everybody there was over the age of 60, and they said they didn't think they had any gifts that young adults would appreciate. Oh my gosh, you have the wealth of the Catholic tradition in this room. You have life experience. You have so much. But making that connection is tricky.
Let me just add a couple of points here. One is, there was a young man who called the vocations office in our diocese, and the person who was taking the data said to him, tell me if you have ever been involved in ministry. And he proceeded to talk all about young adult ministry. When the phone call was over, the person taking the data called me and he said, Diane, most people who call this office and I say, tell me about ministry, haven't a clue what the word means. So that's one thing. I agree with Kate. What has happened with us is in some of our campuses, is different religious orders have offered to come in and actually lead like busy people retreats and things like that. This is wonderful, and we are grateful. And so it's the sharing of the program with us that is just really helpful, and then gives the religious congregation some exposure to the young people. The other thing is, as you know, on college campuses, spring break is coming up, and we are sending people everywhere. They are on their way to Oaxaca. They are on their way to Haiti. They're also on their way to Philadelphia for Mercy Corps. They're going with the Sisters of Charity, have a whole spring break opportunity. So things like that, if congregations are doing things like that and are offering spaces that we can begin to plug into, that is really very, very helpful. But we need the information.
And 2 examples, bustedhalo.com. If you want a trip, the Paulist brothers and fathers have done bustedhalo.com. It's a great outreach. Young adults are online. In Chicago, the Jesuits have put some intentionality toward young adult ministry and created Charis Ministries, which is happening in 3 different cities around the country. Indianapolis and Cincinnati are the other 2. And it truly is, their main charism is retreat work, and they're doing some of the finest retreats, which really help us so much. So we still do our 2 retreats a year, but we know that at 2 other times during the year, there are, or actually 6, 7, 8 other times during the year, there are opportunities for young adults to connect with retreats. So what's your charism? What do young adults need, and how can we put them together? Yeah.
But we need you.
We do. We do.
As a young adult Catholic,
Yay.
I'm 19, I'm a freshman here at Catholic. I came in the tail end of the previous panel. I think it's more suited for them than anybody can comment on this. I feel compelled to speak today because I fear for my generation and the Catholic faith. And that's because looking at political issues, for example, a lot of my roommates, I live in a quad, have sworn never to go to church again because they were strong supporters of John Kerry. And the Catholic Church, some leaders wanted to deny him communion. And they feel now outcasts of the Catholic Church. But they're good kids. They tutor in D.C. Reads. They do great things. It seems to me that a couple issues that maybe some young people dissent on is trumping so much more that the Catholic Church has to offer. This campus alone, there's one issue, abortion, which tends to overrule every other issue. And I think there's an image problem in the Catholic Church. It certainly is for me. I have started to lose some faith in the Catholic Church because of this. And I'm being honest and blunt, because this is what young Americans think. You're already starting with just 50% of Americans if we only cater to one part of the electorate. And when it comes to issues like abortion and gay rights, I ask if you're looking to get young people involved, to maybe tone down the rhetoric a little, and to begin to accept more people into the church, and I know we do, with open arms, and let them know that these aren't the only issues. And if you happen to be pro-choice, you can still come to church. You can still do good things in social justice. And I feel that if we're talking about getting young people involved, they don't feel welcome, a lot of young people. For example, I didn't feel welcome around the election season because I supported John Kerry. And I'm saying that we have so much to offer as a generation. And if we can begin to unify people across the political spectrum into the Catholic faith and say there's an option and an opportunity for everyone, that you will get more young people because they want to believe, they want to come to church. They do. But a lot of the higher-ups maybe scare them away. So I wonder if anyone would comment on that. And that's also just a bit of advice for a 19-year-old.
Do we have comments? Well, I would just, I actually have an anecdote here, which I'm going to, it's not entirely apropos, but it is at the same time. John Kerry was actually the occasion of the youngest of my three coming back into the church. He's always been sort of perverse. He is a traditional Catholic in the sense that he is a passionate Democrat. He is typical of the third tier that Sister Diana was referring to in the sense that he hadn't darkened the doorway of a church in some years. He actually signed on to the Kerry campaign very early and was working for the senator. And the Sunday before the Iowa caucuses, Daniel went to church. The first time, I can't remember when, except for the Christmas Eve service when you dragged them. Well, you all know, well, perhaps you don't remember, but the Iowa caucuses worked out very well for Senator Kerry. So then, of course, Daniel had to go to church the Sunday before every next caucus. And once the senator sewed up the nomination, of course, he had to continue going. Now, I will confess that he missed a couple of Sundays after the election. He was pretty heartbroken. But something good happened at St. Peter's on Capitol Hill, and he is back, going to church, I presume praying for his party. In his case, I think the bishops, they made him very angry, but perhaps in part because he felt alienated before, they made him so mad that he decided to kind of reclaim his heritage and not let them define it as something that didn't belong to him. He was also, he was very low level, so he couldn't ever reach a policy-making person, but he was able to talk intelligently to the Kerry camp about how they had a tin air on abortion too, and how we needed somehow on that side to kind of soften the rhetoric and make it clear that we might be able to kind of thrash our way toward an unsatisfying but necessary middle ground. So I second what you're saying. I'm just amused that your sweet mates had a slightly different experience than my son did. Questions?
I just want to say two remarks. One was I was at the Notre Dame Pitt game, and Notre Dame lost to Pitt in the last second of the game. And as we're walking out of the stadium, I overheard a student say, "I feel right now the way I did the day after the election." So I just want to say you're not alone. I think the other thing is what I forgot to add to my list of what we do for Summer Theologica is conscience formation. And this is it's an important part of the tradition of being Roman Catholic. And it's just one of the pieces that hasn't been taught well. There are a lot of things that have not been taught well to your generation. This is just one. And so you need to help us by jumping on board to learn as much as you can, and we need to do a better job. We need to say we're sorry for the poor religious education you have received, and we take responsibility to catch up.
Well, I think, too, just to respond to your statement, this might be a situation if research were done, that this is not truly, it wouldn't be age differentiation. In other words, it wouldn't be the 20 to 39-year-olds or, younger who would be experiencing this in our church. But you might find that there are many people my age feeling the same way. And so being open to the conversation with each other, I think, is very, very important, that intergenerational conversations about issues that are very vital. So maybe offering opportunities for that, might be somewhat helpful.
Part of the research we did, some in-depth interviews with young adults, turned out to be, because of our connections, graduate students at the University of Maryland. And the homosexuality issue came up time and again. I thought, what? They're all talking about it, but it was a very sore point. Maybe it's a matter of who we happen to get for the study, but they brought it up again and again as a barrier between them and the church.
And isn't it sad when all of our tradition is boiled down to one issue? I think we have to be careful and guard against that there's so much more to our faith than where we are. And even questions, a lot of times we spend a lot of energy on the wrong question. For example, why do I have to confess my sins to a priest? That's not, that's a lot of young adults' questions, a lot of our questions. Why do I have to address my sins to a priest? That's not the real question. The underlying issue is, how do I get free? How do I get free? How am I embraced by God, by the community, by all this stuff? So anytime anything's boiled down to one issue, and we saw a lot of tension in this last election for a lot of good reasons, why, what's going on there? So it's a great question. Thank you for being so articulate and stating it. But just what can we do as God's people to follow the teachings of Jesus Christ and move forward? And you're right, in terms of the Catholic Church on paper right now, it is a hard time. And we're going to do our best to ride out the storm, but we're in the midst of a storm, a horrible storm.
I just wanted to say that I think if the way I hear both of you describing young adult ministry that works, both of you use the word listening a lot. You set up structures where young adults actually create their own programs, and that's the only thing that's ever going to work. But that's a different model of the church than it is, and I think we have to face it. And when you talk about giving people great church, I don't know how you affect the preaching, for instance. That is going to turn a lot of people off a good deal of the time. There's got to be some way of connecting and getting what Dean Hoagie called earlier, these two trends that are going in opposite directions in terms of Catholic laity and priesthood.
We have a motto in Chicago that the Catholic parish is only as good as its pastor. And the leadership model of the pastor is going to determine a great deal about, are we pre-Vatican II or post-Vatican II, and does the laity have a place, and can the laity's voice be heard, and all of those things come into play. They're real issues, real concerns. Yes, in the back.
I'd like to pick up on what our 19-year-old said, but also the person here. It seems to me that, as the world, we live in a very anxious time, but also where there's a lot of diversity. And I think the way we keep coming at it is we're going to have discussions, which really, comes from the word percussion, which means to beat over the head. And so we come prepared to either defend a stance or impose it on someone else. And I think that one of the things that we're being invited to by your models is that we really need to come with that in dialogue, which I think we use the word, but we don't understand the word. That the word really has to do with a lot of listening, and then really trying to put ourselves in that other person's place, and then see how we can come together. And so I think as long as we come for discussion, we're not going to be able to make the connections across the diversity that we're seeing.
And the fancy church word for it now is inculturation. that when I speak with you, when we enter into dialogue, and you listen to what I have to say, you're changed. And at the same time, in my listening to you, I'm changed. And can we, as an organization, as an institution, whatever, can we be in dialogue where truly there is an openness to conversion and transformation? And I think in the bigger picture, another question is, who's guiding our church? Do we believe that I'm in charge, or the diocesan director, or the pastor, or the vicar, or the bishop, or the cardinal, or the pope? Who's in charge? Or is it the Holy Spirit? Is it the Holy Spirit? And if we can trust that the Spirit is in charge, our church has this beautiful past school mystery thing going on, life, and then death, and then new life. And I'm just hanging on to the new life. Even in our government, I think Easter's coming, everybody. It's got to be coming. The sun's going to rise again. So that's a little bit of my theology. Yes.
I am, obviously I'm a young adult. I'm a campus minister here at CUA. And I would just like to also encourage those who have passed through the young adult years to also not be afraid to guide and mentor young adults. I've heard so many priests say, oh, young adults don't want to hear me preach to them about sex. They don't want to hear me preach to them about a relationship that I don't have. They don't want to hear me preach to them about this and that. And I really think that so long as, what Kate and Sister Diane are saying, so long as there's a leader who we can tell is open and who will be willing to listen and who is trustworthy, they also have knowledge and have that wealth of the Catholic tradition. Young adults really are hungry for that. And it needs to be done, obviously, with sensitivity, but they really, really are. So please don't be afraid to continue to guide and mentor young adults.
I would just add to that. Years ago, there was a study out of Notre Dame on successful parishes. Was it the extrovert? Was it the liberal? Was it the... The bottom line was, did the priest love the people and did the people love the priest? And that's how it is with young adult ministry. It's no big secret here. Do you love young people or don't you? And as ministers go, if you love young people, it's going to work. And that means you can fight with them. It means you can do whatever. But if you love them, it will work. And the other thing I would say, and I don't mean to offend any young people here, but the questions that are being asked are not terribly profound right now. Because people don't know the profound questions. So, it's things like, Diane, what do I call the bishop when I'm meeting? Well, you call him bishop. I don't call him sir. No, you call him bishop. Yeah, they're not terribly profound right now.
Yes, is it Bill? Yes.
Yes, I enjoyed the panel. The one thing that didn't seem problematic in your discussion was the Mass itself. Is it problematic? Is there a sense of the communal already in the young people that come in, or does that issue ever come up? I mean, we say it's a central act of worship, but it didn't seem to be part of your discussion. Sort of accepted if they're back in the church for whatever reason, that's okay. Can you comment on how does the Mass as an act of worship, as a communal act rather than individual act, does that come up at all in discussion? Is that a problem for young people?
I find that they are rather faithful to attending liturgy, at least the ones we know, and I'm talking first and second tier. Do they understand it? No. We used to say a symbol that needs to be explained isn't a good symbol. Forget it. Symbols need to be explained. So, just within the past 2 months, we did a learning mass for the young adults. One of the pastors in the parish went through the entire liturgy, explaining step by step what was going on. And there were 35 people that showed up on a Tuesday night. So. Yes, they attend. Is it an act of worship? I'm not sure what it is. They don't understand the symbols.
I see that too. The teaching is so lacking that to even get to the point, is Jesus truly present in Eucharist? A lot of people don't know. A lot of Catholics don't know. So a lot of that has to go on. That sense of longing for community is incredibly strong. That sense of wanting to be fed and knowing that God is the source of life and love, but not necessarily knowing how that works in my life is strong. So I think even of the people who are in church, there is not always that connect as to what Mass is, as Diane said, what Mass is, or what's happening, or what this is about, or the Our Father. And so those are real questions that I think some good, strong catechesis could do a lot for. And also, we have this whole church language. Come to RCIA and do this and do that, and the DRE will let you know, if the, institutional da-da-da-da is at work, So we have to be really careful, assume nothing, explain everything, and graciously offer as good a sense of church as is possible to teach young adults what good church is. Okay?
There's another young adult in the back row, yes.
Hi. I'm also a young adult, but I'm a married graduate student. So I'm coming to this as more of a parishioner young adult instead of a campus ministry young adult. So a little different brand. So I guess I don't really have a question so much as a request. I'm at a fairly large church in the area, and frankly, our priests are exhausted. And I know that, and I know that it's a reality for most priests in parishes right now. They're exhausted. They're overworked as is. So it'd be very helpful to me and my young adult colleagues if we could borrow a note from our Protestant and especially evangelical Protestant friends to have glossy presentations that are a little prepackaged for us, that don't take a lot of training, that don't require a priest, that we could get together and work on together as a community. I know that one of the hardest things that we have is trying to find time that we can meet with one of the priests in our parish. They're just so busy. So I recently was at it's a Baptist church on Capitol Hill with a friend, right? Going for ecumenical support or whatever, They have a young adult pastor. They have a guy whose job is to coordinate this stuff and take care of this group of people. Oh my gosh! What a strange concept. So it would be great if we could have more things that came to us that were just a little bit more structured already, and we could just plop somebody from a leadership role into that and let them facilitate a group independent of maybe some of the other folks in the parish. Just a thought.
Well, that seems, in a way, an appropriate note on which to end. Even in the days when we were the one true church, the Protestants always did seem to be a little bit ahead in terms of organization, the things of this world. I extend to you our warmest thanks for coming, particularly to our speakers. I have two brief announcements. The one is that there are some refreshments. There's cheese and soft drinks and the usual inexpensive but drinkable wine, which is this time upstairs in the upper foyer, and you are certainly welcome to partake and to continue the conversation. There's also a sign-up list outside the door, which I think is Kate. Is it? No?
No, the sign-up list is for us.
It's ours. Oh, okay. Actually, we probably want to just get you on a mailing list. But if you're interested in being notified about further activities from this, right? Exactly. I'm sorry. I just didn't mean to implicate you in this. That's just outside the door on the book table. Will you join me in thanking the speakers?